So he talked about Chaz Lanier, how I think he would be the best option for Kentucky basketball right now. I confidently believe that he would be my first pick. Let's talk about where all three of these guys stand. So as we mentioned on yesterday's episode, Chaz Lanier at the G League Combine alongside Wooga Poplar. Poplar in the game that Lanier played in, Poplar scored 18 points. Lanier only 1 of 3 from the field, 3 points in his G League Combine game. I said on yesterday's episode, I don't put too much stock into either of their performances. Wooga, I think, is an example of what he can be, especially if Mark Pope is able to unlock some more consistency from him. And then Lanier, I didn't think that was reflective of what his game could be for the Wildcats at all. Lanier right now, I think, is in good standing with Kentucky, just as far as Kentucky's chance to actually land him. Kentucky's been in contact. Mark Pope actually went to go see Poplar and Lanier in person during the Combine. If I had to guess, I'd say Kentucky's the favorite to get him right now. I'm not quite sure what's happening behind the scenes as far as offers go with Tennessee and BYU and the Wildcats themselves. Don't have any information on that. Probably not going to find a ton of information about that out there right now. But my guess is that Kentucky's the favorite to land them. And I really, really do hope that they do, because he, again, is my top guy right now. Jackson Robinson. We've not heard really a ton out of Robinson's camp, but we did get some news today about Kentucky and just their pursuit of Robinson. Apparently, he is currently at the NBA Draft Combine, and Kentucky is gone out to visit him and gone out to watch. Mark Pope is currently checking him out. Alongside, like I mentioned, Chaz Lanier, Wooga Poplar, all of them are in Chicago, and Pope is reportedly still at the Combine to watch Jackson Robinson. I think his G League game actually just ended a little bit ago, and I think he finished with 10 points in two blocks, 10 points, 2 blocks, something like that. I need to go actually watch the tape because I hit record before it ended, but Robinson is somebody that Pope is still pursuing. We've heard some different rumors about how Kentucky is approaching this as to whether or not they are approaching Robinson heavily compared to maybe some other guys. Obviously, Almanor, if he ends up committing to Kentucky, and he is currently on a visit to UK, if he does end up committing to Kentucky, where does that put Jackson Robinson? Do you play him at the 3? Do you move Kobe Brea up to the 4? Do you play Otega Owe off the bench? Do you play Owe off the bench at the 2 or the 3? How does that work? I'm not quite sure what Kentucky would do if they get Almanor, because at that point, I think Jackson Robinson and whether or not he would be able to actually find a spot that he wants on this roster, that would be in question. I would hate to see that happen just because of how much upside I think Robinson has as a player, especially with his experience. I wouldn't be mad at Almanor taking that spot and kind of taking those minutes from what could be Jackson Robinson. I'm not mad at Almanor committing. I think he's a good player, and I'd love to have him. It's just I would like to be able to see Robinson find a spot on this team at the end of the day, and obviously he's still going through the draft process, and according to various rumors out there, it's not going to take a ton for him to stay in the draft, so maybe that's what he ends up doing. Maybe that's why Kentucky's covering their bases by getting the FDU transfer in Almanor. But I still really do think Kentucky's got a chance with all three of these guys. I would be shocked if Almanor's not committed by the end of the week. That's just my thought on this. If he comes out of this visit, which ends on Thursday, by the way, if he comes out of this visit and he's not committed by next Sunday, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, maybe that means good things for Robinson. Maybe that means good things for Kentucky's chances. Who knows? Robinson might have already announced that he's pulling out of the Combine and he's returning to college, and he picks Kentucky by that point. Not sure what's going to happen. I'm going to be very intrigued to kind of see how all of this plays out, because Kentucky, I think, is going to get 2 of these guys. I think they're going to get 2. If they don't, they'll probably go with Wooga Poplar. I'm not sure, or at least they'll try and pursue him. It's all going to be fun. The transfer portal's been extremely chaotic. We'll continue to follow it here on Locked On Kentucky. All right, we got one more player I want to talk about here. A player that is transferring out of BYU. Would he fit in terms of getting the role that he wants on this roster? No, I don't necessarily think so. But would he be an excellent addition to this roster? I do think so. Let's talk about Noah Waterman here in a second. Before I do that, I want to remind you guys, again, if you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel, would greatly appreciate it if you did so. If you're listening on podcast, follow along there as well. Locked on UK and Lansdahl_ are where you can find me on Twitter. And I would highly encourage you guys to click the link in the description below. Go join the Locked On Kentucky Discord. It's just a place for all different fans of Big Blue Nation to chat not just about basketball, but football, baseball, volleyball, anything you want to talk about. We've got it going on there in the Locked On Kentucky Discord. I think there's over 200 of you in there right now. So appreciate everybody that's joined up. It's free. It's just a place to hang out and chat. Again, link is in the description if you want to go join up there. All right, wrapping up the Tuesday edition of Locked On Kentucky. So we've got a transfer portal player here out of BYU, a forward that was a very interesting piece for the Cougs just a season ago with Mark Pope. And that is Noah Waterman, 6'11", 220-pound senior, who is technically entering his 6th year of college. He redshirted his first year of college at Niagara, and he transferred to Detroit Mercy, played there for 2 seasons. And then he transferred to BYU, and he played there for his last 2 seasons of college. So technically, he's entering the portal to go into his 6th year of college. He played 8 games at Niagara, averaging 6.1 points as a freshman before, again, redshirting, which I can what I can assume is injury. And he has been a stretch 4/5 for the majority of his career. And that's what intrigues me about Waterman. Is you may say, okay, why are we talking about him potentially as a candidate for Kentucky? Well, Kentucky hasn't reached out. Who knows? He may commit to somebody else by the end of the day. We don't know. But Waterman, I think, could find a spot at that power forward position if Kentucky doesn't get Almanor. If they don't get Robinson, I think Waterman would be a very interesting piece. Take a look at his numbers from a season ago. 9.5 points per game, while shooting 46% from the floor and 37% from 3, while shooting 4.7 threes per game at 6'11", 220 pounds. He also shot 80% from the charity stripe, almost 81%, 5.4 rebounds, 0.7 assists, and 0.6 blocks. This kid was a pure outside shooter. That's kind of what he did for the BYU Cougars outside of getting out in transition and scoring quite a bit. Here are some of the more in-depth numbers. He shot 66% at the rim, which was only 28% of his field goal attempts, which is a very low number for a 6'11 forward, but that means he was outside knocking down some shots. He shot 36% on left break threes, 41% on right break threes, and 44% on left corner threes. So he's a really solid outside shooter, and he likes to throw them up there, and he was really, really, really good for BYU in transition. He was in the 88th percentile of transition scores in college basketball just a season ago. And when you pair him up with guys like Kerr Carissa, with guys like Lamont Butler, with people on this roster, with players on this roster who can pass the ball around, it really does give you some lethal opportunities in transition. We've talked about this with Mark Pope and his system, and just like how he plays offense, how he pushes the tempo, how he's got players that can space the floor. If Waterman is not outside the arc, he's somebody that can run in the middle of the floor, kind of rim run, and be somebody that can be on the receiving end of a very open entry pass to get a layup or a dunk in transition. It'll be very, very easy, I think, to find Waterman at times because of the three-point shooting capability that Kentucky's roster could have this upcoming season. And that's if Waterman even takes a look at Kentucky. Will he end up taking a look at Kentucky? I'm not sure. I just think that he would fit very, very well at the power forward spot alongside Andrew Carr, who can kind of do similar things to Noah Waterman. It's just I think Waterman was just a slightly better outside shooter. He had a 58% effective field goal percentage in catch-and-shoot situations. That is in the 83rd percentile of catch-and-shoot scores. He's another great spot-up scorer that I think Kentucky could add to this roster. Noah Waterman at 6'11" was primarily utilized as a power forward during his time with the Cougars, but also was utilized at center as well. I think that he would be a great addition. He also took the third most threes on this roster, and this was a team that really, really liked to shoot outside shots. Spencer Johnson, 145 threes. Jackson Robinson, 229. Dallin Hall, 145. Trevin Knell, 174. Noah Waterman, 154 threes behind Trevin Knell and Jackson Robinson. they could light up. This BYU team could really light it up from beyond the arc. And I think Waterman would be somebody that could fit in. Would he play a ton of minutes? I think that would be interesting to see how that dynamic would work with him and Carr, because Mark Pope has spoken so highly of Andrew Carr recently, saying that they're going to play him in a Lauri Markkanen type of role, which again, will just be fascinating to see how that ends up developing. I like Carr, but I think that if you pair him with somebody like Waterman, that would make it a very lethal 1-2 punch at power forward of multiple players that can go out there and knock down outside shots. I like it a lot. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like Noah Waterman potentially as an addition to this team? What do you think about Lanier, Robinson, and Almanor? You can leave that in the YouTube comments below.